Well, folks, if USAID hasn't been already exposed as being the fire hose for taxpayer dollars to fund radical left-wing causes around the world, this latest revelation should be the absolute nail in the coffin for USAID. Now, it has come to light that between 2015 and 2016, $300 million was sent by USAID to the Sanad Construction Resource Company, a Palestinian cement company. Now, let's just, before we get into all this real quick, make sure you drop down below, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another update on any stories that we're covering from us. So, this company, Sanad, this is a private venture that was used taxpayer dollars from the United States to establish multiple cement mills and factories that would go on to, according to their website, supply 65% of all concrete used in Gaza. Just absolutely ridiculous. And what do you think some of that cement was used for? Maybe building the 300 miles of terror tunnels beneath Gaza that were used by Hamas in the Israel-Hamas war. So we've got a lot to unpack today on all this. So we're going to start off with the $300 million cement deal to begin with. So in 2016, this company was established. At the same time, really literally almost at the exact same time, they received a whopping $310 million from USAID that was meant to build a Palestinian cement factory. Within just a year, this new company went from being a startup that got $310 million from the U.S. government to being a publicly traded company on the Palestinian exchange. Think about that. A new company gets founded, immediately receives all this money from U.S. taxpayers, and somehow grows fast enough to go public. I think that sounds a little suspicious. If we were in the United States, I think the SEC would be all over this. Just like the SEC is all over Elon Musk for basically irrelevant issues. The SEC would have been all over this. But no. Since it's in Gaza, since it's Palestinian, we're not going to have any oversight. And here's where it gets even worse. This company, Sanad, became the main cement supplier for Gaza. They provided 65%, and this is according to them, 65% of all cement that was used in the region. 65% of all cement that was used in the region. And then turned around and sold the cement back to the U.S. and the UN, profiting off of it twice from taxpayers. They were able to get money from the U.S. and then build a product and sell it directly back to the U.S. And they made a handsome profit on this. And like we've said, this was a key tool that was used in the Hamas-Israel war, was these cement terror tunnels that were built using this money from USAID. And this should have absolutely raised a red flag. How does $300 million, supposedly for humanitarian aid, end up strengthening Hamas's infrastructure? How is that? How do we not have enough oversight? You know, USAID's annual budget is about $50 billion. I get it, this is less than 1% of their budget. But maybe back then, maybe even it was closer to 30 or 40,000 10 years ago. This is how do we have 1% of your budget that goes to strengthen Hamas? How is it? How is this money sent, supposedly humanitarian aid, and then used for this? Just absolutely ridiculous. Because let's be clear about this. These terror tunnels were not just some abstract concept. This is not just some, asterisk at the bottom of the page when they're going to write this in the history books. These tunnels played a direct role in the October 7th terrorist attacks on Israel when Hamas murdered 1,200 Israeli citizens and took hundreds hostages. These tunnels allowed Hamas militants to move weapons, fighters, supplies undetected that facilitated the brutal attack on these innocent civilians. They were then able to take these hostages and put them in terror tunnels. And when Israel tried to retaliate, these terror tunnels were built under schools. They were built under hospitals. They were built under civilian centers, places where large amounts of civilians are going to be. This was not some asterisk at the bottom of the history book. This was a direct role. The cement tunnels were a direct role in this war. It is just ridiculous. And now you really have to look in the mirror, ask yourself, who in the U.S. government approved this funding? I have a hard time believing that $300 million can just go without somebody with a little bit of power knowing what's going on. How did USAID justify sending $300 million to a cement company that would end up supplying Hamas? And why is there zero accountability for U.S. taxpayer dollars ended up in the hands of a terrorist group? Like for reference, put it this way. The average American in a retirement account around 50 years old, 50 to 60 years old, is about $300,000. The average. The median is like 180 or something like that. 300, that's the average American after they've worked their entire life. This is what the average American has $300,000. And somehow the USAID gave away 1,000 times that, $300 million. They gave away $300 million. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And this isn't just wasteful spending. This is actively endangering Americans' lives and our close allies' lives. We need an investigation and full accountability for what's going on with this and what's been uncovered. Because it's not just enough to expose this corruption. People need to be held accountable. You even have right here, we have the initial from, I don't know how to pronounce this here. It's all in Arabic, I'm guessing. But it's from the Press House Palestine. This is from back in 2016 it was written. This is an article that was written back in 2016 about what was happening here. About this money that they got. They got this. The amount of the investment will be $310 million of USAID. Once it's like, this is just ridiculous. Go check it out for yourself. I can leave a link to this down in the comments, but this is just ridiculous. And I'll also leave a comment to this Substack that initially broke this news here. This is just absolutely insane. But there needs to be an immediate investigation and accountability. People need to be held accountable. There needs to be a full congressional investigation into this. Congress needs to launch an immediate investigation into who approved the funding, who in the USAID and the State Department signed off on this deal, and where the hell were the internal warnings that were ignored about this money being misused? How? This shouldn't be a partisan issue. Democrats and Republicans should be demanding answers. But you know what? You know what the Democrats are doing? They're instead outside of USAID headquarters screaming about how Elon Musk is a Nazi. He's a Nazi. It's like they don't care about this. This is the thing. We've covered this in other videos. Trump has been choosing the 80 side of so many 80-20 issues in the world. The Democrats are being forced into the 20 side, into the 20%, where 20% of Americans agree with them. And that's what's just continuing to happen, and that's what's going to happen here. Democrats, because they hate Trump so much, they're going to go into the 20%, because they hate Trump more than they love America. They hate Trump more than they want the government to run efficiently and for this waste to be exposed. Because until we have complete transparency, the U.S. must immediately halt all USAID funding going to Palestinian entities. No more blank checks. Now, I know the Trump administration has tried to stop some of this discretionary spending, but it's been blocked in court, so we're going to see how that all plays out. But also, they're the executive branch. Like, what are they going to do? What can the courts do? Yeah, they can try and impeach him, but at the end of the day, the GOP holds the House, and so is the Senate, held by the GOP. But here's the thing. If officials knew that this money would ultimately benefit Hamas, and they approved it anyway, that's not just incompetence, that's criminal, and these people need to be put in jail. They need to be put in prison for, not even jail, prison for the rest of their lives. If they knew that this would ultimately benefit Hamas, criminal, go to jail. Directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. If laws were broken and they were responsible for funding terrorism, they go to jail. And we need to stop this money laundering loophole. This whole situation, now, can anyone prove it directly? But that's the thing, money laundering is sometimes hard to prove. But the U.S. taxpayers, think about it, U.S. taxpayers are sending money to a foreign entity that then gets cycled through a foreign company, used to build Hamas's infrastructure, and then the U.S. and the UN buy that cement back from them. Congress needs to shut down these damn loopholes so taxpayer dollars cannot be funneled to terrorist-controlled regions under the guise of humanitarian aid. Thank God we have Elon Musk and President Trump doing this work for us at the federal level, stopping the billions and billions and tens of billions of dollars in waste that's occurring in our country. Because with this level of corruption and incompetence, oversight is critical. And the issue is we had all these inspector generals. Where the hell have they been? I'm happy they got fired. Where the hell have you been? Where the hell have you been when money has been sent to Hamas, to terrorists, to attack one of our closest allies on the world stage? And how do we ensure that not another cent of U.S. taxpayer dollars ends up funding terrorism? And this is things that President Trump's going to have to figure out. How can we make sure that even after he leaves office, there is enough accountability? We need DOGE to be in law. It can't just be an executive branch. It's like this needs to be an independently run by Elon Musk forever, I'd say. But we need investigations and we need transparency. And most of all, we need a leader who's going to call this out for what it is. It's a bunch of bullcrap insanity. And that we need to prosecute these people who allowed this to happen. Because Elon Musk and others have already exposed so much massive waste and corruption, but there is still so much more to uncover. No matter how much the Democrats obstruct, this fight must be the fight that we fight. This is the hill you must be willing to die on. The American people deserve to know where their money is going and why their tax dollars are ended up funding Hamas terror tunnels. We must know. We have no way. We have no way of knowing unless there is a congressional investigation. We need to have a full understanding of what were the consequences. Number one, what were the consequences of us funding Hamas? We kind of have an idea, but let's have an investigation to figure out exactly what it is. We need to figure out, number two, who approved this funding? Who in the U.S. State Department and USAID signed off on this deal? And number three, were there any internal warnings that were ignored? Because this money was being sent to fund terrorism. We need to immediately freeze all U.S. aid to Palestine. They're terrorists. They elect terrorists. Why are we helping them? They're terrorists. And we must hold these officials who allowed this to happen and these bureaucrats accountable for it. We must hold them accountable for it. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment on this absolutely ridiculous funding by the U.S. government for the Hamas terror tunnels. And as always, hit that like, subscribe, and comment down below what your thoughts are. Until next time.